Welcome to my book wrap up. I cannot believe that I'm already filming this video, that it's already the end of 2023. Well, almost. I feel like 2024 is knocking right at our doors, and before we know it, we're going to be bringing in the new year. Insane. But I saw Destiny here on YouTube post her end of the year book wrap up, and I really liked the questions that she had, so I decided to continue the tag and do my own version. I have a ton of books on my bed that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. If you've been watching my channel all year, then you probably already know some of the books that I'm going to mention, just because when I love or hate a book, I talk about it a lot. A lot of these books are probably going to be familiar to you guys. And how many questions are in this tag? There's 22 questions. I'm not going to describe and read the synopsis of every book because I do plan to film 2 other videos where I go through all of the books that I absolutely hated this year and all the books that I absolutely love. So I want to keep this tag pretty brief so my content doesn't feel super repetitive to you guys. But with that being said, let's just dive into this tag. I'm so excited. The first question is most disappointing read of the year. That was pretty easy for me to choose, and it's the last book in the Shatter Me series, Imagine Me. I loved the Shatter Me series. It literally took me over a year to finish it because I did not want to finish it. I did not want to move on from this series, and I finally read the last book. I don't remember when, maybe like 2 months ago, and it was such a disappointing read. Did not enjoy the writing, did not enjoy the plot. Yeah, it was just a no for me, especially after loving the entire series and looking forward to the series being wrapped up in a nice little bow. This just failed completely to meet my expectations, sadly. Underdog book of the year. So I would have to say Royally Rearranged by Emma St. Clair. Yeah, Emma St. Clair is probably the underdog book of the year just because I don't see anyone talk about this book. I actually read it on Kindle Unlimited, fell in love with Emma's writing and just loved this book in its entirety. I gave it an instant 5-star read. I think I read this book when my son was still a newborn, and I read it within a 24-hour period. That's how much I loved it, and I was willing to sacrifice on sleep just so I can finish this book. If you're looking for a cute little romantic comedy, that's the book that you need to read. I feel like everyone should read that book. A book that was overhyped. This is always an interesting question to answer because everyone's going to have different opinions. My baby's playing in the background, but the most overhyped book in my opinion is Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So many people here on BookTube love this series, love this book, talk very highly about the characters, but I just couldn't get into this story. I DNF'd this book so many times and I finally forced myself to finish it and was just meh. The characters are super toxic, which I understand that's the whole point. The authors wrote the characters to be super toxic for one another. That's the whole point of the series. I just don't like reading super toxic books, and I don't know if I'm ever going to finish this series. I literally only read the first book and I'm kind of meh. Maybe I'll go back to it. I did notice that the entire series is on Kindle Unlimited, so maybe I'll read it that way. In case I hate the rest of the books, I don't have to worry about wasting my money. Fave book couple of the year. My favorite couple of the year has to be Dean and Cora from Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. These 2 characters went through hell and back together, and I'm just obsessed with them. I finished this book maybe a month ago and I'm still thinking about these characters. I love them so freaking much, and I love that book. It was an instant 5-star read for me. They definitely are my favorite couple. Favorite main character of the year. I'm going to stick with Cora from Still Beating. She went literally through hell and back in that book and came out on top, so she's definitely my favorite character. If you haven't read Still Beating, go read it. But look up the trigger warnings because it is a very dark romance, but it's so good. Books that surprised you. I will have to say probably the books that surprised me the most this year are all the books that I read by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I only have 2 of them here. I forgot to pick up the other 2, but I read Malibu Rising, Daisy Jones and the Six, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and then Carrie Soto is Back. I loved all of her books. I think 3 out of those 4 I gave 5 stars to, and I spent the entire year of 2022 saying that I was never going to pick up a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, that I knew I was not going to be a fan of her writing. Like, I shit talked her book so much based on the synopsis alone, because the synopsis on her books are not that great, at least in my opinion. And I used to read her synopsis. I was literally not even interested in any of her books. They did not make me want to pick up any of her books. I think I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo first. No, I think I read Daisy Jones and the Six first. And I decided to make a whole video of me reading viral TikTok books, and that happened to be one of the books that I picked. Ended up falling in love with her writing and decided decided to go on a Taylor Jenkins Reid book binge. And I'm so glad that I finally decided to give her books a chance because I fell in love with writing. She's definitely one of my favorite authors, and I can't wait to continue reading more of her books in 2024. So those are the books that probably surprised me the most. I hope this video isn't super dark because it's a very cloudy day today. But new favorite author you discovered in 2023. Honestly, there's so many authors that I discovered this year that I couldn't just pick one. I will have to say Abby Jimenez is up there, Stephanie Garber, and there's one more. Taylor Jenkins Reid, obviously, and then Noelle Wihli. I can never pronounce her last name. She writes thrillers. I recently discovered her through Kindle Unlimited and absolutely love her writing. So those are probably my top authors for 2023. I love them all. Definitely check out their books if you haven't. Happiest read of the year. I would have to say Royally Rearranged by Emma St. Clair. That was such a lighthearted book. There was like deep topics covered, but it wasn't heavy. The entire time I was reading that book, I had a smile on my face. I love both of the main characters. Normally it's really hard for me to fall in love with both main characters in a book, but I fell in love with both of these main characters. And again, I highly recommend this book if you're looking for a cute, funny, romantic comedy that's just going to make your heart warm. Definitely check out Royally Rearranged. Most frustrating book you read in 2023. I would have to say, I think I have two books here. If He Had Been With Me was probably one of the most frustrating books that I read just because I could not get behind the main character. She came across like a pick-me girl. I'm not like the other girls. It was just, I just did not like her character at all, and I feel like everything could have been avoided had she communicated her feelings. Didn't really enjoy that book. And then I would definitely have to say Addicted to You was also very frustrating because the main characters were hella toxic for one another, and I was pretty pissed off throughout reading that book. I will say no book has pissed me off till this day as much as Normal People has. I read Normal People last year and that book still makes me angry. Whenever I see it, I get angry. Like, I hate that book so much. I feel like no book is ever going to frustrate me as much as Normal People did last year. Best adaptation of the year. So the only adaptation that I saw this year, that I watched this year I should say, was The Summer I Turned Pretty season 1, and I really enjoyed season 1, although they did change a couple things from the books, which is a given. I mean, it's going to happen, but regardless, I really enjoyed season 1. I started watching season 2 and I couldn't really get into it, so I don't know if I'm ever going to finish that series. And then I tried my best to get into the Daisy Jones and the Six show on Prime. Couldn't get into it despite giving that book a 5-star rating. I don't know, I couldn't get into the show. Maybe I'll give it another chance in 2024, but yeah, those are the only like movie adaptations or show adaptations that I watched. Oh wait, that's not true. I watched the movie Red, White, and Royal Blue based on the book, and that wasn't that bad. The movie wasn't bad at all, in my opinion. Didn't really like the book, but I enjoyed the movie, surprisingly. Longest book you read this year? Probably A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is over 700 pages, like over 750, and I absolutely loved it. The shortest book that you've read this year? I have no idea, and honestly, I didn't feel like going through all of my books to look at the page numbers. So yeah, there goes that one, you guys. So sorry, you guys. My laziness won with that question. Favorite cover of the year? I have a couple covers that I just think are so pretty. Let me see. I think Icebreaker by Hannah Grace is such a pretty cover. So simple, but so cute. And then By a Thread by Lucy Score is another really cute cover. It just has a cute little like black dress. I think I read this one in January. I'm pretty sure. Hope I didn't read that last year. And then I would probably have to say all the Taylor Jenkins Reid books I think are so pretty. Like, the covers are so simple yet so stunning. And then I think there's one more here. I also really like this cover, The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I love how it's pink, just happy vibes. A book you haven't stopped thinking about. Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. Like I said, that was an instant 5-star read for me, and I still think about that book and the characters and just everything they went through. It literally touched my heart in a way that I was not expecting it to. Cringiest book you read this year? Easy choice. Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I hated this book with a burning passion. It was such a disappointing read, especially since I enjoyed When in Rome, which is the first book in this series. This book was just so cringy chemistry. I couldn't connect to the male main character. I didn't really see the chemistry. And yeah, I really hated this book. It was trying to be spicy without actually being spicy. And I hate the in-between. If you're going to write a spicy book, go all in. If not, just stay wholesome. There's nothing wrong with that. I love a good wholesome book. Just don't try to be both. Clearly, I'm still mad about that book. Unpopular book you loved. I don't know if this book is unpopular or maybe it went viral a few years ago, but I literally never see anyone talk about it here on BookTube, and that is The Wrong Bride by Katharina Mara. I loved this book. If you're into arranged marriages, kind of like enemies to lovers, then definitely read this book. Read the whole Windsor series by Katharina Mara because it just hits. Her books hit. They're so good. The writing is so addicting. What was the highest and lowest rated books you read this year on Goodreads, and do you agree? The lowest rated book on Goodreads that I read was Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. That's rated a 3.32, and I actually gave that book a 1 star. So I kind of disagree. I think the rating should be lower because I absolutely hated that book. And then the highest rated book that I read this year on Goodreads has a rating of 4.49, and I gave that book 3 stars, but I can understand why it's highly rated. Like, I'm not gonna argue with that rating. I understand. Favorite quotes of the year. I actually brought 2 books that I annotated the crap out of. So I annotated the crap out of The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith and You Be Home Now by Kathleen Glasgow. There are so many good quotes. I don't even know which one to pick. I literally can't pick one. My heart feels like a bird trapped in a cage in my chest. Feel like we've all been there. He has no way of knowing how sometimes it physically hurts to smile. How a smile can sometimes feel like the biggest lie I've ever told. This just had a profound impact on me, and I didn't think it would. Even when I finished it, I didn't really think I was going to think about it, but I still think about this book literally months after I finished it. And then this need to get lost in something other than yourself. Lose yourself, erase yourself, so that none of your awful, wrong self remains. Not one blasted thing. These quotes are also depressing. They should hold your hand when you go out together, no matter what, and they should never walk in front of you. They should walk next to you because you walk through life together. Do you understand? If you haven't read these 2 books, go read it because they're such good reads. Book with the most unique concept. I would say I actually recently read 2 books that had really unique plots, but I was let down by both of them. And I would have to say Never Never by Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher and One Italian Summer by Rebecca Swirl. Both of these books, like I said, had really unique plots and synopses that really intrigued me, but the execution just fell through. So I don't even know if I would recommend these 2 books. I know that they're loved here on BookTube. I just did not like them. They were huge letdowns, unfortunately. A book that you read that you would reread. Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. I read that on Kindle Unlimited, but I'm going to buy it and reread it and annotate the crap out of that book because it's just a masterpiece and you can't change my mind. I love that book so much. So the next 2 questions are actually just reflecting questions and setting reading goals for 2024. Reflecting on my 2023 goal, I had to go to my Goodreads because I honestly forgot what my reading goal for 2023 was, but I guess I set it to 65 books and I'm actually at 95 books. Actually, I'm past 95 because I've read a couple books that I haven't added to my Goodreads account yet. Like, I didn't add some of the books that I read in November, and I've been reading books in December that I haven't added yet. So I'm probably at like 100, 105 books for the year so far, and I am so surprised. I set the goal of 65 books because I was pregnant at the end of 2022 and my son was due in April, so I didn't really know how much time I was going to have to read. Even though I was tired, I still wanted to make reading a priority because it's something that I love to do. So I made time to read this year, and I'm actually really happy and proud of myself that I was able to do that. With that being said, I think I'm still going to keep my reading goal for 2024 at 65. Just don't want to put pressure on myself to read when I don't want to read. Like, I literally want reading to be a hobby. I never want it to feel like I'm forcing myself to read just to read. I think 65 is a pretty good number to keep my reading goal. Final question is, after 2023 reading, what are you prioritizing in 2024? I would say that in 2024, I'm focusing on reading more books out of my comfort zone. I don't want to only read books because they're popular on Book Talk or BookTube. Like, I want to really find books that are not talked about online and that are good so I can recommend it to you guys, because the same book recommendation recommendations from 10 different booktubers get old so quickly, and there are so many authors who unfortunately don't get the recognition they deserve on booktube or book talk that still deserve to be praised about and talked about online. So I definitely want to get out of my comfort zone, stop going to booktube for all of my book recommendations, and just picking up books because they sound amazing, not because they're being talked about and have gone viral. Does that make sense? Like, I really want to get out of my comfort zone. I also want to read more fantasy. I want to read more thrillers, maybe dive into the classics a little bit. I just want to expand my reading horizons, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. Let me know in the comments below, what was your reading goal for 2023 and did you achieve it? I would love to know. I'll have all the questions to this tag in the description box below if you want to film your own little reading wrap-up video. You're more than welcome to use the questions. Again, credit to Destiny. She's the one that came up with all the questions. And yeah, really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.